Rest of the panel, that's pretty much it today, except for Mark Pancratz is showing up. We got Bob Hodge right there. We got Vince Ferrara right here. We got Tyler Evans right here. I like the pink.
Thank you, John.
Just hoping to be better than the skeleton with our.
That's right. Yeah, poor old,
Nothing but bones.
poor old Slim, the
It'll be a
sports
race.
store skeleton. He's been brought out for much worse occasions, though. Usually it's like, I remember when Butch Jones, we finally said, okay, that's the one that got him. He makes an appearance. Coaches don't like seeing Slim show up on our set. All right. The SEC rolled on with 6 games yesterday. Tennessee, one of only 4 league teams that didn't play. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. And I want to ask you, all right, so you got Alabama, which that thing was 6-0 until late in the first half. Offense looked terrible again. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, do I need to reevaluate Tennessee's defense for the 14th straight game? Everybody they play then stinks the next week. Maybe that's Tennessee showing everybody how to defend them. But Alabama does blow Missouri out. Missouri fading fast. Texas, 27-24. Now, it was 27-17, but Vandy does not quit. They got a heck of a quarterback in Diego Pavia. Arkansas puts away Mississippi State. Ole Miss struggled with Oklahoma for a while, but finally put them in the bag. The game of the day yesterday was LSU building a nice big lead on Texas A&M, and then Texas A&M coming out of nowhere in the second half. And then Kentucky laid down and died against Auburn, and we'll be talking about Kentucky's in here next week. It's been announced that's a 7:45 start. It's right here on its ABC game, correct? 7:45 right here?
Or is it the SEC Network? Yeah.
Is it SEC Network?
Yeah,
Okay.
Texas A&M, South Carolina is that?
That's right. That's right. So, but it's still 7:45.
Right.
So a night game, Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky next week. We'll talk about UK and the Vols a little later. But I want to ask you guys, and I'll start with Bob. What surprised you yesterday?
If you're looking at the individual games, game by game, the biggest surprise in any of those games was what happened to LSU in the second half against Texas A&M. Like you said, they had a good lead. I did not think that Texas A&M was going to have the offense to be able to come back. I didn't think that Texas A&M's defense would suddenly just rise up and look like the purple people eaters. And that one was the biggest shock. And you sat there and you looked at it and you watched their quarterback in the second half. And excuse me, I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name. There's a lot of names to remember and all this stuff. But the kid was virtually unstoppable. I haven't paid that much attention to Texas A&M this year, so I go and I look. Oh, he's played in 3 other games, and he hadn't been very good. And yet yesterday he was threw 2 passes in the second half. Excuse me. So that was my biggest surprise was half to half LSU and Texas A&M.
I agree with that game, the way it turned around. No answer for Marcel Reed. And 4 straight touchdowns they scored once they changed quarterbacks. Now, the first one was one play running out on an RPO when Nussmeier turned the ball over and tried some hero ball. But Marcel Reed, actually, I didn't think that they should change quarterbacks when Marcel Reed was in there because he gave him that running threat back when Wegman was hurt. Then when Wegman came back, they started winning games. They're like, okay, Mike Elko knows what he's doing with his quarterbacks. Well, he made a decision in there, and Wegman was not happy about it, and it turned out, and now Marcel Reed is their quarterback because there was no answer.
But he can't
Until
throw.
the
That's
next
what's funny.
week.
He can't throw.
Yeah, that's
The
that's
kid,
He had a long throw. Down the field
he hit one.
Okay,
He's barely a 50%.
not everybody's hitting passes down the field,
Barely
Bob.
a 50% passer when he's played.
Well, my thing is this. I think they've got to, obviously, they're going to keep flipping them the rest of the way. It seems to me, I mean, you thought Wegman was your guy, and I think Reed's the guy. Neither one of them has claimed the job and stuck to it. So I just, it's funny, we'll talk about biggest surprises of the season a little bit later. I think went into this season, Texas A&M has a good roster. We knew that. And right now they're sitting atop the SEC, which we'll get to in the next segment. We got a lot of stuff coming up. But I don't know if they're going to stay up there at the top of the league because I don't trust their quarterback situation because you said it.
No.
This guy looked fantastic in the second half yesterday. What's he done earlier this season? I don't know.
And I mean, he's been fine.
I don't know that they've got a guy.
But he hasn't been what he was in the second half last night.
If you're in week 9 and you're still flipping quarterbacks,
Yes.
that tells me something about your quarterback situation. Anyway, go ahead.
You've got 2 options if you're in College Station right now: conservative with Wigman, or you have explosiveness with Reed. It's just that simple. And I know some people go, well, how simple is it? They're going to have to go into every game moving forward. Texas A&M will, because coming up, we're going to talk about Atlanta and who's going to be these teams that are a factor. They're going to have to decide every day: red pill, blue pill, because this is going to be the dynamic of the defenses I'm going to be facing off against. There have been times this year Reed needed to play against Florida. that blew them out in the second half in that game of the Swamp. I don't think that Wigman, if healthy, could have won that game for them.
Yep.
I think coming up, though, if Reed wants to play this dangerous, let's throw caution to the wind approach like November 30th against Texas, my opinion, I think this is a perfect Wigman spot because he's conservative, doesn't give second opportunities to oppositions. Again, it's going to be week by week, but right now things are playing out well in College Station.
Bigger surprise, Vandy hanging with Texas after they beat Alabama a few weeks ago, or Kentucky just laying down and dropping dead?
Oh, wow.
Bigger surprise. It's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I would say as bad as Kentucky looked at home.
Yeah.
They've now lost 7 consecutive SEC home games. Home games. And when they've looked better, it's actually been on the road against some really good teams, even getting the win at Ole Miss. But to look that way, obviously the quarterback position, they got a lot of problems.
They got a lot of problems. You blew a 10-point lead that you had in the first quarter against Auburn. And Auburn, since Hugh Freeze has been there, they don't finish.
Yeah.
I mean, that is their bugaboo is, man, they've looked good for 3.5 quarters and they don't finish. And then once they got ahead yesterday, just flipping back and forth between games, I never thought, I'm watching this for a little bit, Kentucky can come back. No. Once they got behind, Kentucky was toast.
Yeah.
They botched the end of that first half and didn't get any points, and they still overcame it.
I believe we were on this show, maybe it was near that last open date. Kentucky beats Ole Miss in Oxford. And you sat here and you go, anybody can beat anybody on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's 100% right. Except Kentucky, who then, since they've won in Oxford, has gone Vandy, Florida, and then last night they get whooped up on Auburn. I remember when they thought that they had the right coach stay whenever Calipari left for Arkansas, this battle of Mitch Barnhart's athletic department. Yeah. Kentucky's in bad shape right now.
Well, you also
Stoops
throw in
bill.
the 3-point loss to Georgia that Kentucky
If you have a
had.
competent quarterback named Brock Vanderdorf, I think you beat Georgia that night.
You
Well,
know?
here's the thing. And then you get trashed, blown up by South Carolina at home. I mean, that's
Yes.
a team that's up and down. You say they can't beat anybody right now? We'll see.
Yeah.
These teams tend to turn it on and turn it off week to week. I mean, I watched the end of Nebraska-Ohio State yesterday, and it all seems to be happening in these two major conferences, Big Ten, the SEC, more than anywhere else. But they were talking about the fact that there was the same broadcast crew watching this game, and Nebraska had a late lead. And they're saying, we saw no signs of this last week when Nebraska was just getting killed. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you get in college football, at least in the major conferences now, is you have no sign from week to week. Again, I've said this on this show. People are tired of hearing me say it. I've said it for years. Lou Holtz famously said, you never see the same team twice as a coach. Justin Hamilton, when he was here, said, man, if I had the answer to that, if I knew why you didn't get the same team twice, I would still be a defensive coordinator in Power 5. Of course, he's in the NFL, so he's doing all right.
And this year, you're not getting the same team half to half.
Sure.
You watch the first half, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Man, Oklahoma is going to get them a good win
Tennessee
here,
fans
and
would
Ole
agree
Miss
with
is
that in
done.
the last 3 weeks.
And then you turn on the second half, and Oklahoma's getting sacked every time they snap the ball. So it's not only game to game; it seems like half to half the whole thing changes.
Let me give you the Halloween horror for Tennessee. This would be the absolute worst. Let's say you go to Georgia and you somehow beat Georgia, and then you ride pretty into Nashville. Because here's the thing: anybody saying, "Well, they can't beat Tennessee," they went on a stretch where they beat you 7 out of 15 years. They also have beaten Alabama already, and they hung with Texas. I can't believe I'm saying it because I'm the one who wants them thrown out of the conference. But if they can be this kind of a football program that's dangerous, okay, fine. I'm
Yeah,
good
the
with that.
last touchdown
But
made it
that-
seem closer than the score, but
wouldn't that be
they
the
were
worst?
there with Texas the entire game.
But that's worst case scenario. I mean, is that not Tennessee's worst case scenario? If that's your
That
Halloween
is
horror,
beyond worst
if you lose
case
to Georgia,
scenario.
it's one thing. But if you're riding, you're going to be a top 4 seed if you get past Georgia and you're all the way winless to the last game, and then you're in Nashville in a tough game against Vanderbilt.
Well, it may keep you out of Atlanta in that scenario, and then it puts it on the committee. Are they giving you more credit for wins, or are they docking you for the losses?
Okay. All right. Very good. When we come back, let's take a look at the SEC race heading toward Atlanta. We'll show you the schedules of all the major contenders. You've got 8 teams, I think. I'll look it up. We'll show you in a second. It's either 7 or 8 that have 2 losses or fewer in the SEC that are still in it, with Texas A&M, the lone undefeated team in conference play. Come on back. We'll show you the race.